Thank you for turning to Tunnel of Dark Narrations, friends. I'm Turk Strongman. Today, I got up a little late, actually pretty early for me. Today is Sunday, August 1st, in the year of our Lord's 2021. I looked at the clock at 11:11 a.m., just after I reached the kitchen and swallowed my first gulp of coffee. And that one was my last. As I looked at the clock, noting that it was 11:11 a.m., I remembered. Today is my birthday. I have turned over from the age of 62 to 63. And I realized next that I'm about in the same position as I was 8 years ago on my birthday when I made a video called I Don't Know. I'm about in the same position today, perhaps even more aware of the fact that over most things, right down at the bottom of affairs, I don't know. People have over the years pointed out that I seem to have a very deep understanding of affairs, the deep matters of life. Well, that may be true out on the surface, but for me, deep down inside, regardless of my beliefs in correspondence with what the others say, I don't know. Maybe it's true, maybe it is not. Now, there may be wisdom in such thinking. Then again, interfacing with that potential wisdom over that, there is a bit of horror in it. The great mystery of life, boiling down to the final question, why, remains unanswered. For us, and for me especially. But the great mystery of life involves that other phase of life, which we know as the great unknown. At times it seems horrific to consider. At other times it seems like there's a bit of serenity with that unknowing. But the mysterious part and even the horrific part, or aspects of it, remain. 8 years ago, I had a different channel here on YouTube called Theron Q Ramataraka. The channel no longer exists. On that channel, I had uploaded a myriad videos along the self-help line genre of information. People commented that I seemed to be very, very wise about such affairs, and I made this video called I Don't Know. And insofar as it remains true today on my birthday, let's review that video. Here it goes.
I'm Theron Q Ramataraka.
There we are.
To the best of my knowledge expanse, that covering according to some a notable distance, and said by some of the same as well as by others, to plummet to a praiseworthy depth of the murky atmosphere of downright insight. It stands in accordance with my experience in affairs of all sorts and manner, that perhaps my greatest pronouncement, characterized by a truth value of truth, is I don't know. Amid the gimlet of my rambling, my verbose goings-on, my lecturing, my vocal setting forth of things, my laying other things down rhetorically, my summing up of yet other things verbally, by appointing myself to a position upon a pedestal, the lofty surface from which I pontificate, teach, advise, coach, guide, and otherwise pass information along. By any similar method of dissemination, my certainty over it all, while standing tall in its own domain, falls with a thud within and under one overarching admission of certainty that I do not know. I tended to agree with that 17th century mathematician who gave us Cartesian geometry, that French philosopher who reported that in his long nights of fraternizing with the wives of kings, while those kings traveled afar, that he engaged those wives in philosophical intercourse only. René Descartes himself, whose last name to any native speaker of English looks more like Descartes than Descartes. Yes, I tended to agree with him, but not with his explanation concerning his nighttime fraternizings, but rather with his conciliation, that at the end of the day all he knows is that he exists, and that he knows even that only due to the obvious, that is, that he is thinking in the least about what he can know, or more simply put, that he is thinking, period. I tended to agree with him on my own account. I exist. That much I not only validly assert, but confidently affirm to myself that its verity stands unshaken by the most earnest doubts over it. That by necessity it corresponds with the actual state of affairs. Yet anything more than that, any postulations concerning the nature of my existence, concerning the qualities, characteristics, attributes, relationships, if such considerations mean anything at all, such considerations about that one thing pointed at by my proclamation I am, sink into the same abyss of dubious speculation from which they arise. For I could amount to a brain in a vat, experiencing impressions induced by a computer. I do not know. Yes, I tend to agree with him, but on my own account. Tend to, but not with certainty. For it seems to me that one other thing must be true, at least in the abstracted ideal. There must exist one absolute, absolutely, which is not identical with my existence. For I am thinking, and the absolute can by definition be attributed no such attribute as I can know it, nor define it, and I find no getting around it. And then there are some other things that I think I might know, in fact a lot of them. If I present what I take to constitute my physical form, in the middle of the FDR Drive, and dance there to some music, and a careening taxicab strikes my form, and I proclaim that I feel a consequent pain, I take it that my proclamation involves some substance. That's just an example, and I've never actually done it. But I know someone who did. He said that he felt a pain, and the people at the hospital said that he must have. So I guess that it was true, and pointed to a fact. But that doesn't necessarily help me out of that vat in which I might be a brain or something like one, rigged by some wires and what have you to a governing computer. But then what about you? And some other people? Is that what you are too? Or are you impressions induced to me by the computer? What if you tell me that you exist too, like I exist, whatever that implies? We can't all be the only actually existing thing, can we? If I say to you that only I exist and that you're just an impression I experience, and you say, yeah, me too, and I say, well, that's cool, we're two then, glad to meet another one, what the hell am I talking about? Other than that I exist, and that it stands to reason that so does one absolute, there must be some other things that I can know. But what they are for sure, I do not know. Except maybe for that pain I would feel if that taxi hits me on the FDR drive, and that is broken off pieces, maybe some chunks of its headlight or something, are called cabbage. If we all agree to something, like that the grass is coming up early this year, then maybe we can agree that we know it, and be happy with that. That sounds pretty good, especially if we all nod when we say it 3 times in a row, and then measure the growth over the period of a week. Well, then that's called intersubjectively confirmed, falsifiable, empirical evidence. It's scientific. And if we can predict its further growth based on what we've all observed, and then test it again, and thereby prove the predicted outcome, it's even better scientific. And if we can move from all that to actually controlling its growth, and measure that, and then branch out from there and predict other related things that work out, and then even explain the relations among some other unrelated phenomena, well, then we get into better scientificalness. Then if I close my eyes and remember that I am, and feel some sort of existing connection with all the rest of it, including that cabbage, then I might consider that I have some downright insight. And then if I remember that one absolute, that there's just no getting around, but that just seems to be no matter what else is or isn't, well, then that's coming dangerously close to what they call wisdom, or at least a little piece of it. We live in the age of deception, and in some respects, maybe we always have. Maybe deception has its own existence, even if we aren't around to get caught up in it. I don't know. But I believe that we live in it now. We're of that age. Deception, misinformation, even disinformation, and sometimes the extreme, information. There is talk of things like martial law, which was predicted, mind you, to be controlled by the few over the many. Not to be confused with theories about the one and the many. It was predicted to have been put into full spring, at least in the United States of the Americas, 5 years ago, and then 4 years ago, and then 3, and so on. Now it is maybe any day now, for sure. And a lot of other talk. But me, I do not know. I don't even know what happens after that cab hits me on the FDR drive. If my body goes all the way with it and, what they call dies. What happens after that? I mean, in my experience, can a brain in a vat experience death? I mean, actually experience it? Or moreover, what happens after that? Honestly, I do not know. I assume that there is actually no such thing as death. That the denoted event rather constitutes a mere change of states, or of organization of matter at various component frequencies. I have a lot of ideas about it, but I have heard nobody who has died come back and tell me about what happened after that. Oh yes, I have heard some reports from the so-called other side, but I do not know whether they refer to anything factual. And I have heard some testimonies, and about some relevant elevations of spiritual pursuit, resulting from death for a while, but then coming back to life. But I do not know whether dying and coming back to life in this manner, the dead part of it, involves the same things as does dying dead for the whole count, as in, when you're dead, you're dead. Dead. I do not know. It is the great unknown. And from where I stand, there seems to be no getting around it. Contradictions, inconsistencies, fake news, contrivances, confabulations, worn-out paradigms, and all manner of other related things abound. And the truth is, as I've said, I do not know. But within the overarching umbrella of my not knowing, I feel pretty sure about the things that I post here in my channel. Things about self-mastery, things about personal involvement, and the like. It's what I've got and it's what I give. If it amounts to some tadpole of truth in a frog pool of knowledge, or if I'm lucky, of wisdom, then hats off to that knowledge or to that wisdom, my hat included. I'm Theron Q. Ramacharaka. Be well.
Well, what a speech! Oh my. I don't know. And it remains true to this day. 8 years later, at 11:11 a.m., as I realized it's pretty much exactly 8 years later. I don't know if this qualifies as a horror video on my Tunnel of Dark Narrations horror channel. If you can find something horrible about this not knowing thing, good on you. Thank you for turning to Tunnel of Dark Narrations. I'm Turk Strongman. Lastly now, amid the noisy, confusing haste of this old world, its ghostly shadows of the past, and its vague uncertainties about the future, strive to stay alive, to be well, and to find peace in your restless soul. See you around the mountain.